Science fiction meet military fact. The U.S. Navy is boasting that it now has a huge technological advance in airborne technology. A prototype of the drone-deflecting laser is being deployed on a docking ship in the Persian Gulf. This laser is capable of turning UAVs into fireballs and rendering enemy patrol boats useless. Take a look at this. The laser can perform two main tasks. One is burning a hole through an enemy vehicle with ultra-hot, ultra-focused beams. The other is a non-lethal burst of energy that will literally dazzle the adversary's computer sensors to stop them without actually causing them any physical damage. This technology is a game changer, folks. The Congressional Research Service Office says that it is the biggest Navy advance since the shipboard missiles came into play all the way back in the 1950s. But there are two important issues to address here. First is the fact that it is actually being deployed to the Persian Gulf instead of anywhere else in the world. Second is the American dominance over the skies. To talk about that and more, I'm joined now by Alexandra Toma. She's a nuclear non-proliferation expert and a Truman Fellow. Thank you so much for joining us. So first off, let me just ask you straight up, how big of a deal is this technology?
Well, as you mentioned, and as the Congressional Research Service report mentioned, it is a game changer. What I will mention, though, is that it is a prototype as well. This is the first time we're pioneering this technology, and so it remains to be seen how effective it will be.
Okay. Now, is this a change in pace in the way that the U.S. is currently dealing with Iran? Up until this point, it's been diplomatic sanctions. There hasn't really been any kind of strategy in terms of military physically. So is this a change of pace?
I don't think so. I think, again, we need to sort of see what happens and what the reaction is from Iran, obviously, to what to the laser. But I think this introduction of this new laser is not going to shut the door on diplomatic efforts, nor should it. I mean, we should have, and we should be pursuing all types of relationships and relationship building with Iran.
What kind of a message do you think that this type of laser entering the Persian Gulf actually sends to Iran?
Yeah. I mean, I think it sends a message saying, look, we're not going to allow you to sort of use your swift boats to come close to us and sort of play with our ships like they did back in 2008. You remember that incident? And so it's more of a defensive measure. I think it says, hey, don't do that. We're here. We're serious. You can't mess around with us.
And as you mentioned, back in 2008, it was a couple of quick moves, and luckily no shots were fired. So that was a quick way to get out of something that could have potentially turned pretty damaging really fast. Let me ask you this. Would firing this type of laser, even if it's the one where you dazzle them without actually hurting it, be considered a first shot?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it could be. But the main point that you made is that you can sort of use the sort of razzle-dazzle instead of the "I'll poke a hole in your ship" function of the laser if it works as it's supposed to work. So I think it has it's multifunctional, and that's good. It's cheap, which we like, and members of Congress will like with the sequestration and the budget crisis we're undergoing right now. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it actually plays out and what the tests. Now they're going to be doing tests, so what that will look like.
So even though nothing would technically be damaged, it could potentially be still considered a first shot. But something else to mention is that this technology is by no means perfect. It has a lot of problems, the first of which is the weather. Bad weather would affect it. So if there's raindrops, if there's smoke, if there's dust in the air, it will not work properly. Yep. Also, it's not powerful enough to take down fighter jet missiles. Anybody that puts a reflective face on their machines, it can actually confuse the laser. So it's not perfect. There's a lot of flaws in it. Yep. So what does it possibly mean that we are putting ourselves into a political posturing with Iran before the technology is actually ready for that kind of thing? Yeah,
no, it's a really good point. I mean, yeah, another thing, you need to have your the object that you're targeting in sight. So, as you mentioned, it's a cloudy day, it's dark, it's at night, I mean, all those sorts of things. There's certainly, and again, it's a prototype, so there are certainly a lot of things that you need to work the kinks out for. But what I think, yes, I think it's a signal. I think it's a signal, as I said, it's a signal saying, it's defensive, we're here. You can't skirt around, as you've done in the past. I think that we should continue to focus on diplomacy, but it gives us another tool in our toolkit for the types of really complicated negotiations we're now undergoing over there.
And they say it's still just about a year out from actually being fully functional, so that gives even more time possibly for diplomatic talks.
Exactly.
But the laser obviously gives the U.S. near limitless control over the skies. They can control their own drones because we do have by far the biggest range of drone technology, and also the stealth modes that we have is unlike anybody else. But at the same time, we can also shoot other people's technology down with these lasers. So do we have unprecedented control of the skies? And if we do, is that fair necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, our allies in the region, obviously, we need to make sure we're protecting them no matter what we're doing. And I think we're doing that. And this, again, is another tool in the toolbox to be able to do that. I don't know that you or I sitting here can know all of that. And a lot of this technology, obviously, is classified. And so I'm not sure about whether our adversaries have things that match us right now. But I do know, again, sort of to repeat, is that this is something new to us and something that will give us a leg up in the region and in the necessary diplomatic talks that need to continue to happen over there.
And finally, just talking about those diplomatic talks now, as I mentioned, you are a non-proliferation expert. What can we possibly do right now? That's not sanctions, that's not anything else. Now, in terms of diplomatic talks, what would we present or that they could present to get the ball rolling again in terms of these talks?
I mean, I think we just need to keep, it's sort of blasé. It's sort of what you would expect. Someone who believes in non-proliferation and believes that a war in Iran, I agree with the president, I agree with the military leaders, that a war in Iran in the region would be devastating. So I think we need to keep the door open, keep continuing to talk with our allies in the region, including Israel, and figure this out. But we do have another. I think maybe we'll be taken a little bit more seriously now by the Iranians.
Alexandra Toma, a nuclear non-proliferation expert and a Truman Fellow. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.